So, back in 2009, this film comes out and it doesn't just break box office records, it completely vaporizes them. It was a massive global phenomenon, a true cultural moment. Of course, I'm talking about James Cameron's Avatar. Its success is just undeniable. But here's the thing, it's also built on this huge paradox that gets more and more obvious with every passing year. Okay, let's get into it.
Okay, just take a second and look at this number. $2.923 billion. That is Avatar's worldwide box office. To this day, it is the highest-grossing film of all time. It's a number so huge it's honestly hard to even process.
And yeah, this chart, it really lays it all out. Even after more than a decade, after all the Avengers movies and new Star Wars flicks, Avatar is still sitting at #1. So that brings us to the big question, right? How on earth did a movie from 2009 pull this off, especially when its whole identity was wrapped up into technology that, let's be honest, pretty much died a spectacular death?
To really get why Avatar was such a monster hit, you gotta transport yourself back to 2010. There was this absolute mania, this craze around its core technology, 3D. The entire industry was convinced they had struck gold.
You know, a report from PricewaterhouseCoopers at the time just perfectly captured the whole vibe. They literally called 3D the goose that lays a golden egg. The thinking was, this was it. This was the future. This was going to be an endless money-printing machine that would get people into theaters and paying top dollar for tickets.
And look, for a hot minute there, they were absolutely right. What's so wild about this chart is the trend you can see. For Monsters vs. Aliens, a little over half the opening weekend money came from 3D. For Pixar's Up, it jumped to 68%. But then Avatar comes along, and a mind-blowing 82% of its insane opening weekend haul came from those premium-priced 3D and IMAX tickets. So you see, the big takeaway here is that 3D wasn't just some extra feature, it was the main event. For Hollywood, it was the engine driving the whole train, propping up the entire box office. It really seemed like that golden goose was real. But then, it all came crashing down.
So what happened? How did this golden goose get cooked so fast? Well, the industry's hype machine basically ran smack into what audiences actually thought, and the public opinion on 3D today is, let's just say it's not great.
I mean, you just have to look at what people say about it now. This one from a Reddit thread pretty much nails it. Once that initial wow factor wore off, people's feelings shifted, and fast. What was once seen as this incredible revolution was now just a gimmick.
And then there's just the practical side of it, right? It was a pain. The glasses were clunky, they were uncomfortable, especially if you already wore glasses. The movie itself was often darker. It was just an active inconvenience.
And this is the big one. People aren't dumb. They started to realize that studios were just rushing out these sloppy, poorly converted 2D movies, slapping a 3D label on them and jacking up the price. That trust was broken. It stopped feeling like an artistic experience and started feeling like a total cash grab.
So yeah, you add it all up, and these were basically the nails in the coffin for the whole 3D craze. You got headaches, the picture looked worse, the effects were often just cheesy and distracting, and you had to pay more for all of it. It's no wonder the whole thing just fizzled out.
Which brings us right back to that massive paradox, doesn't it? If 3D was this failed fad that everyone grew to hate, how is it possible that the #1 poster child for that exact same technology is still the undisputed king of the box office? Well, the answer is that Avatar was playing a completely different game.
See, the answer isn't really about the tech itself, but about how they used it. It was a totally different approach, almost a different philosophy. And to really wrap our heads around this, we're going to borrow a couple of ideas from the ancient Greeks. These concepts, techne and poiesis, they help us see two totally different ways of looking at technology. One as a way to exploit, and the other as a way to create art.
Okay, let's unpack this. On the left, you've got technology as exploitation. This is when you look at the world and all you see is a pile of resources. A forest is just lumber, a mountain is just minerals to be mined. Sound familiar? It's exactly how the RDA sees Pandora, just a big rock with unobtainium inside. But on the right, you have technology as art. That's poiesis. This is totally different. Think of a sculptor's chisel. It doesn't destroy the marble, it reveals the statue that was hidden inside. It's a bringing forth of truth or beauty.
And that right there, that is the absolute key. For almost every other movie, 3D was an exploitative gimmick layered on top. But for Avatar, the 3D was poiesis. James Cameron wasn't using the tech to throw spears at your face. He was using it to reveal the world of Pandora, to give it depth, to make you feel its life and its scale.
The technology was a tool in service of the art, not the other way around.
But okay, it wasn't just about the clever use of tech. The reason this movie still hits so hard goes way deeper. It's about the world that tech helped create and the insane effect that world had on us.
This actually connects to this really cool philosophical idea called hyperreality. It's basically the point where a simulation, like a movie, a virtual world, starts to feel more real, more vibrant, and even more important than actual reality.
I mean, is there any better way to explain hyperreality than this line from Jake Sully himself? For him, his real life as a paralyzed human has become the empty dream, and the simulated world of Pandora, the one he experiences through his avatar, has become his true reality. This is exactly what millions of people felt in the theater, an immersion so complete that this fictional world felt more alive than our own.
And that incredibly immersive, hyper-real world, well, it wasn't just for show. It was carrying a really potent message. At its heart, Avatar is a powerful environmental story. It's a huge warning against the kind of strip-mining exploitation that the RDA represents, and it's a celebration of a spiritual, deeply connected relationship with nature. That theme hit a nerve with audiences all over the globe, giving the movie a powerful soul beneath the spectacle.
Okay, so let's tie this all together. Why does Avatar still hold the crown? It's really these three things. First, it perfectly fused art and technology. It used 3D to build a believable world, not just for cheap effects. Second, that world was so immersive, so hyper-real, that it felt more vibrant and alive than our own. And third, it used that immersion to deliver a powerful emotional message about protecting our planet. In the end, it wasn't the gimmick that won. It was the world that the gimmick helped bring to life.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big question to chew on. Avatar is a simulation, right? It's fiction, built with computers and technology. And yet, its entire point is to inspire us to save our very real, very natural world from the forces of, well, technology. So if it takes a completely simulated world to make us care more deeply about our own, what does that really say about the state of our reality today? Something to think about.